My name's Rennard. I'm Director of Daxcom CIC.
And how did you sort of first meet Swifty?
So I met Swifty probably back in 1996. We were just starting to go on a canoeing expedition to the Northwest Territories in Canada. So I kind of taught Swifty and another couple of guys how to open canoe. We stayed friends ever since, and it was probably about 15 years ago when we were sat in the pub and Swifty asked me if he could snowboard, if he thought somebody with a double above knee amputation could snowboard, and I think foolishly I said yeah, and that's where it all started.
And what was your sort of reaction to that?
I've always had a kind of open mindset, and I think that's something that in Daxcom we kind of try to nurture in people, of not thinking that you can't do something. So it's always we've got a challenge to meet. What can we do to make something happen? So I was doing product design at the time, and it was just a natural thing to kind of go, well, yeah, I'm sure we could look at the the functional requirements of what's needed and put something together which would make it happen. So it's quite novel. I mean, a few weeks later, you don't get many experiences in life to push somebody with a double above knee amputation off the top of an indoor slope and not knowing what's going to happen. So yeah, it was quite an interesting time.
And what was sort of the process of making the first snowboard prototype?
Well, yeah, we've always worked off a very limited budget and always been either working off a kitchen table or a conservatory floor with bits that you might be able to find from B&Q or somewhere like that, So the first actual prototype was people are going to hate this, but we bolted through the snowboard and actually just strapped Swifty in with hooks onto the top of his prosthetics down onto the board, and used car roof rack straps to tie him down, and that was the very first prototype, just to prove the concept. And so 10 yards down the slope, we've kind of proved that it could happen, and from there we've kind of moved on and on and on. And so over the years we've engaged the voluntary services of different engineers or manufacturers to sort of move the concept and the bindings along a bit. So it's been a long process, but an enjoyable one.
And does he still use the chopping boards as well?
Yeah, we did find that the loads that he was putting through, not that he's an enormous guy, but there are some quite significant forces that go through the board, and he was going through board after board, as he was getting better and going faster, and the forces were getting bigger. So he found that putting a nylon chopping board underneath the bindings just seemed to spread the load, give it that little bit of stiffness where it needed it, and stop the ends just snapping upwards. But in the latest set of bindings we've got, the carbon fibre ones, he doesn't need the chopping boards.
And how did you go from that prototype to the first pair actually being made?
So we went through a number of different design iterations and finally got to this one particular design that we got some support from Equal Adventure, a design company up in the Highlands who design adventure equipment for people with disabilities, and they were able to do the CAD work, and we engaged them with a company in Morecambe called Shemaines to produce a folded, laser cut and folded stainless steel set of bindings, but they actually weighed a ton. They're really, really heavy, and so those were the actual pair that Swifty used when he was training for the 2018 Paralympics, and he just couldn't get the times that he needed because they were just too heavy, and so we kind of knew then we needed to make them lighter. So that's when we used Limb Solutions, approached Ian from Limb Solutions, and Ian managed to reproduce the steel ones but in carbon fibre, and that's kind of where we are today. It's the design set that we're going to hopefully write a technical document for and circulate sort of open source, so that we can encourage international growth of the population of double above knee amputee snowboarders and just generate a bit of international competition, really.
Great. And what's your sort of involvement in Daxcom itself?
Right, so as a kind of director, we we started off just being a friend with Swifty, and just getting into doing the design to sort of help him snowboard. It's been quite an interesting process. It's taken us to, meetings in offices in the middle of London overlooking Parliament Square and all sorts of things, going to Alaska, all sorts of things. So it's been a really interesting journey. So when we started Daxcom to kind of formalise and prove our integrity, really, that we weren't going to run off with any designs or exploit anything commercially for our own benefit, we set up the CIC. We set up the CIC to sort of grow a community, and it's then that we realised that, well, it's not just about equipment, so it's about enriching the community, it's about growing the community, it's about looking at performance and how coaches can use their kind of existing adaptive instruction techniques and processes, but apply them specifically to the needs of people with no knee function. So I'm kind of in the background, if you like. We look at the strategic direction of where the organisation's going. We talk to individual stakeholders who might be funders, it might be a design group, it might be a manufacturer, it might be somebody like the manager or an event manager or a chill factor or something like this, to see if we can use a room or get some discount on lift passes. So yeah, I'm kind of in the background, but very much a part of trying to keep things moving along.
And what's sort of the ambition or goal for it?
Our goal over the next 12 months is going to be to try to double the UK population of double above knee amputees, snowboarders. So at the moment we've got 6. So it doesn't sound a massive thing to be able to do, but it's, bearing in mind 4 years ago there was only one double above knee amputee snowboarder in the world, and that was Swifty, and he'd been doing it for 10 odd years at that point. So yeah, we'd like to that's our sort of short to medium term goal, is to grow the population. Ultimately we'd like to grow, like I said, the international population. So there's a US team, there's an Australian team, there's a Swiss team, a French team, so that ultimately if you do get to the Paralympics there might be a category or an event that allows for meaningful, equitable competition. So
is that sort of the end goal, is to get that category introduced?
It's one of the aims. Competition is just one part of it. We do heavily believe that there's so many benefits in having an active lifestyle. There's so many benefits in sharing a community of like-minded people, and so we don't necessarily our metric for success isn't podium. In some respects our metric for success is how much people can smile and have fun while they're doing stuff.
And what's the funding like for Daxcom? How do you fund it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's always been on a shoestring, which is why it's probably taken so long to get the bindings developed. We have a GoFundMe page that hopefully encourages people to chip in a tenner here and there to help things move along, and that's active. We're looking at things like national lottery funding and things to try to get a package of tri-slides and events to grow the population, to raise awareness and to enrich the current community. So all of our funding at the moment is from charitable sources, but at the end of the day the thing moves on. People still want to ride and they still want to get together, so it is happening, but it could happen faster if we had the right funding.
And have you tried snowboarding yourself?
No, I haven't. I have once, but I've got a bad back, so it's not an excuse. I have got a bad back, but Swifty always tries to get me on the slope and bend. They're always trying to get me on, but just the prospect of falling over doesn't compute for me. So
never say never, I guess.
Never say never. No, that's that open mindset. Hey.
Is there anything else about Daxcom that maybe I haven't asked or you want to say or promote about it?
Yeah, I guess Daxcom, we're kind of obviously unique. We are focusing on a very niche market and a very niche community. but we want to do it in such a way that it's not just restricted. You know, we're not just focusing on people with double above and the amputees. We are focusing on a whole community. So it's the friends and the family, it's the organisations that support it that make the whole community. And we're not trying to, you know, kind of overtake or overrun any of the existing charities that do some great work, you know, that within snow sport. You know, we're really much trying to support a small group of people to access a sport and an active lifestyle and make it a bit easier to get on the slopes and have a good time.